Hi, I'm Rob Gullickson, and welcome back to another episode of On the Road, the show that takes you to all sorts of local businesses in Whitman, Hanson, and all across Greater Boston. Today we are actually in Cambridge to show you one of the more unique offerings that we've had on the show, Cocoa Beantown. So Cocoa Beantown isn't exactly a restaurant or a shop that you can visit, but it is a company that offers all sorts of chocolate-themed events across the city, from walking tours to picnics to corporate events to anything in between that'll satisfy your sweet tooth. So today, we're gonna take a bite at a Cocoa Beantown and show you just what the business has to offer. That's today on OTR. So we've made our way into the kitchen at the Cambridge Center for Adult Education, and we're talking to Victoria from Cocoa Beantown. How are you doing, Victoria?
Hi, how are you? I'm very good.
It's good to hear. So you have quite a setup for us today, and we will absolutely get into that. But let's just start with giving a little bit of a history of Cocoa Beantown.
Sure. So I started Cocoa Beantown in 2017. I had worked previously in chocolate tour guiding and events, and also actually some food writing. And basically I had this idea that with the advent of craft chocolate, which really started in the United States about 17, 18 years ago or so, there was this opportunity for folks that already love chocolate to learn that there's a whole different side of the industry that the vast majority of folks are not aware of. And that's this idea that you're taking cacao beans and making small batch chocolate that has a lot higher quality and a lot more intention behind it. And it's totally different than the industrial chocolate that folks find at the checkout line at the grocery store. And because of that, we could do tasting events, tours, chocolate lectures, all sorts of different events that were structured around deepening your appreciation of chocolate.
Absolutely. And you call yourself, I think I'm pronouncing this correctly, a chocolate sommelier?
That's correct. It's definitely not a job you hear about every day.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm probably the first one you've met. In the etymology of the word sommelier from the French means steward or guide.
Right.
So people are familiar with wine sommeliers because a lot of folks, when they reach the milestone age of alcohol appreciation, they'll go, oh, I want to learn about wine and deepen my appreciation of it. I do all the things that a wine sommelier does. I mean, just from a sort of a great food trivia standpoint, wine has about 200 recognized aromatic flavor profiles. Cacao, what we use to make chocolate, has over 400.
Okay, so what you're saying is that chocolate is more interesting than wine.
You said it, but I would definitely strongly imply it, that's
right,
for sure.
Of course. Yeah. So how long did it take you to develop this very sophisticated palate for chocolate?
Oh, it's been a lifelong endeavor, for sure. I grew up with all the typical candies that, I was eating the Hershey Kisses and the miniatures and Kit Kats and Reese's peanut butter cups. But once I started realizing that there was more waiting out there, as someone who had already established a love of chocolate, it was exciting to me that, oh my gosh, if I just kind of look at the world as a scavenger hunt for chocolate, it just unlocked the sense of adventure for me. And I hope that's the vibe that I give to folks when they come to one of our Cocoa Beantown events.
Victoria's insight and passion for chocolate shows how the business has evolved. The scale of Cocoa Beantown is impressive to learn about. What started as a basic food blog has grown into a wide variety of chocolate-themed adventures, from tasting events to history lectures and more. For such a small operation, there's a lot of flavors to choose from, so to speak.
Yeah, what would you say is maybe the most popular event that you have offered?
In the educational programs, it's definitely our Massachusetts Chocolate History program for sure. The tasting events, because there's actually so many different iterations you can do, we can curate a tasting menu of craft chocolate that is just Massachusetts makers, or we could do just women-owned chocolate making companies. We could do ones that are what we call creative inclusions, where it's the idea of, hey, what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten in a piece of chocolate? Do you know? Off the top of your head? Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I've had everything from chocolate-covered crickets to chocolate bars that have onion powder in them or bits of seafood. Like, it's amazing what people will do, and it might not be for everyone, but for adventurous folks, they go, Yeah, hey, if anyone's going to lead us through it, you seem like the most trustworthy person,
for
so
sure.
I appreciate that trust. And even if we can't physically get people to an event, we also offer a lot of our events through the virtual space. That was our pandemic pivot. So as long as we have a way to get the chocolate to you and you have an internet connection, Cocoa Beantown can actually do events around the world.
Wow. And have you been doing events around the world?
During the initial sort of span of the lockdown and the real pandemic sort of upheaval, we actually covered 5 different continents where we shipped chocolate to and had people zooming in for events.
So what were the 2 continents that you didn't do? Well, Antarctica probably.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And we didn't make it to Australia.
Wow,
But
okay.
we were close. We
Yeah.
almost had someone book, and then also Australia had some shipping problems, and it was actually probably better not to even try.
That's still really impressive, though, that it has that much of a reach. It just shows that chocolate is kind of the universal connector of people across nations, really.
Exactly. It's a universal language.
I originally met Victoria at one of her chocolate history lectures. Suffice to say, a business like this is perfect for Massachusetts because the state has a rather unique history with chocolate, which many of us are familiar with.
The Massachusetts chocolate history literally goes back to before we even started the United States. The very first chocolate factory in all of North America was the Baker's Chocolate Factory in Dorchester. It actually was started by a gentleman named Dr. James Baker, who identified that before he had the science, now we hear on the news, there's studies that say, oh, chocolate's really good for your cardiac function, or it's good for your memory. He could see that when people ate chocolate or drank some drinking chocolate, they felt a little more peppy, or their
Yep.
color returned a little bit. So in a very primitive medical sense, he was like, I think from a medical standpoint, this is a good thing. And so getting involved in creating a chocolate factory and producing these products felt very natural to him even at that time. Obviously, the invention of the chocolate chip cookie is something
yes.
that your viewers will
That
be
hits
familiar
very
with.
close to home for a lot of us in this community, for sure.
Actually, my favorite factoid about that, or just sort of observance, is that when I've traveled to different countries, there have been times where I've come across the chocolate chip cookie labeled in a bakery case as an American cookie, which I think in terms of a food ambassador, I can't think of something better than a chocolate chip
Right,
cookie,
yeah.
right? I mean, we're also the food culture that puts hot dogs and pizza crust and deep fried sticks of butter at country fairs. So
Yeah.
a chocolate chip cookie is absolutely a great representative of what we've contributed in food.
Definitely best case scenario that this is like the American invention that has kind of spread around the
Right,
world.
if you're gonna find your first taste of American food, a chocolate chip cookie's set.
Oh yeah, you can't go wrong
Yeah,
with that,
yeah.
for sure.
Boston was also the first city on this side of the pond, because it was something that had started social, culture-wise in Europe. But the idea of having something called chocolate houses. So in the same way we have coffee houses today, and people are very familiar with the concept of you can go to a place and there's all different sorts of coffee drinks. That tradition started in Europe, but Boston was the first one to have one that appeared on this continent. And the idea of drinking chocolate was a very adult sort of thing to do. Now these days, unless you're someone in my line of work, most adults don't drink chocolate as a beverage very often. Like maybe if they go skiing, they'll get a cup of hot cocoa. They're not drinking chocolate milk at lunchtime
Right,
like they did
yeah.
when they were a kid. But it used to be just as common as you might socially have a friend over for coffee or tea. The third option was reliably drinking chocolate. It's got cinnamon and nutmeg, star anise, sea salt, a little red chili flakes. Those are all the things that would go into colonial drinking chocolate.
It's savory almost. It's way more complex than you might expect.
So you can tell that's much more of an adult sort of
Definitely,
profile
definitely,
than
yeah.
something a child would enjoy.
I'm just so interested.
It's
I
nice,
wish
right?
they would make chocolate like this nowadays. Like if I could just go pick up some drinking chocolate like this.
See, I wouldn't mind starting a movement where we, instead of just having coffee houses, that we had drinking chocolate houses that came back and they were easy to find,
Yeah.
and reliably you could go and get delicious chocolate beverages.
Maybe that's the next step for Cocoa Beantown. Who knows?
Maybe.
All right, well, we will continue moving on because I want to get to the other segment that we had in mind, which is we're going to try and taste some interesting chocolate. So stay tuned. So now we have a little assortment of various artisanal chocolates that I am very interested to get into. But before we do that, what are a few things that you look for in a quality chocolate?
Definitely the smaller the company, the better. If you haven't heard of them, unlike a lot of other products and services where we think, oh, you have to find a brand name to get quality, if you've never heard of them, that's absolutely not an indication that they can't be some of the greatest chocolate you've ever had. Other things to look for, price point. I'm a huge bargain hunter in life, but I don't buy my chocolate from the dollar store. It's just not ever going to result in a good situation. So I know that good quality chocolate carries a higher price point than you would find at the checkout line at the grocery store or the candy aisle at the pharmacy. And that's because they're using quality ingredients that are authentic from the bean. And usually, corresponding with that a little bit is their ingredients list tends to be rather short. Some of the best chocolate I've had is 2 or 3 ingredients. And it shows that to make something of quality, you just start with real deal, authentic ingredients and treat them really nicely.
All right, so let's begin. Take me through this.
Okay, so our first one is going to be this cacao fruit white chocolate from Good Now Farms. And a lot of folks will say to me, well, I don't like white chocolate. Well, why is that? And they go, well, it's waxy and it's too sweet. And I go, if that's the case, you have probably never had real white chocolate because real white chocolate is not waxy and it's not overly sweet. It's delicate. And this happens to be sweetened with the pulp of the cacao fruit. So this white pulp that would be coming out of the entire fruit is what's used rather than a processed cane sugar. So I'd love you to take a piece and to taste it like an expert, because you're gonna be a chocolate expert by the time I'm done with you.
All right, perfect.
You're gonna smell it just to start to prepare your palate, but most importantly, you're going to put it on your tongue, and feel free to make the piece smaller if you're more comfortable, but put it on your tongue and you're gonna let it melt.
You can tell it looks way different than like a regular white chocolate anyway. Like it's not like bleach white, like it's a little more like an off yellow sort of color, which
like a natural sort of color, right, rather than an artificial thing.
Here we go.
So as you're letting it melt, what you're really doing is letting the cocoa butter, which is the natural fat that comes out of the cacao bean, come to your body temperature. And because fat in food is a flavor delivery vehicle, we know if we add butter or cream or bacon fat to something, you change the way flavors get delivered. In chocolate, if you are using cocoa butter, as you should, you are allowing that natural fat to carry the other flavor profiles. And because good white chocolate is mostly cocoa butter, you're probably getting some fruity flavors that are coming out of that cacao pulp.
It's very citrusy.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it feels very melty, you know?
Yeah, not waxy.
No, not
right?
at all.
Not oily either. The reason why we don't chew our chocolate when we're doing a proper, sort of academic chocolate tasting is that you want to be able to get the full impact of what that artisanal maker put into that bar.
Yeah.
And if you chomp, chomp, chomp and swallow, you wouldn't have gotten that mouthfeel, you wouldn't have experienced all the flavor notes, and even like the aftertaste probably has something.
I mean, I will say that's got to be the best white chocolate I've ever had. Just because it actually has more of a flavor to it.
Thank you very much.
Of course. And we're done. No, I'm just kidding.
So for our next one, this is from Somerville Chocolate, so not too far from us. We're in Cambridge right now. This is a true American chocolate bar because not only was it made inside a beer brewery in Somerville, Massachusetts, but the beans are from Hawaii. So it's a 70% dark. So this will be different when you go to let it melt because it won't melt quite as quickly because it's not entirely the fat portion, but you are going to still have flavor notes that will sort of evolve as it's melting.
If you're a first-time taster, like me, it may be tough to find the right words to describe what you're tasting. Luckily, Victoria came in clutch with these flavor charts. This can help you think through the flavor notes you're getting, even if it leads to some interesting conclusions.
This one kind of tastes mushroomy to me.
Oh, interesting.
But it's not like, you might think that that's like really off-putting, but it's not,
Again, flavor notes that are coming out of the bean. These are not extracts or flavorings that people are adding to the chocolate. It's something that those artisans are calibrating the roasting times and temperatures as they're processing those beans and trying to see, okay, what's naturally in there that I can enhance? Maybe there are some notes that I might diminish too, but creating balances between these different flavor profiles and having this idea that there's a lot to work with there. If you have 400 different directions you can go in, those flavor notes are coming from what those beans picked up in that area of Hawaii on that farm, what they absorbed, their terroir. We talk about that. If you've heard it at a wine tasting, we do talk about terroir in chocolate tasting. The climate, the geography, the flavor notes, all those things are going to come out in a single origin. So that's why, especially with craft chocolate, having someone that knows how to treat those beans to coax those natural flavors out. And again, this is a bar that has 2 ingredients, cacao and cane sugar. And in this case, you got to travel to Hawaii through your palate, so.
If only it were the real thing, but I'll take it. Second
Well,
best.
there's snow outside the window here in New England. So this one is from Castronovo Chocolate. So Denise Castronovo was born and raised in Walpole, Massachusetts. She decided to use her environmental science background to help work with her farmers to make sure that they were using environmentally sustainable methods in their farming to create beautiful chocolate. So the idea that you have flavors that are going to come from this area of Peru. This is actually a farm that she selected because of the support that she can lend to the female-owned cooperative there.
Yeah, there's like a little bit like kind of dried kind of fruitiness in there. Definitely, a lot of these have definitely like a big nuttiness factor to it, which I guess that makes sense, right? But yeah. Like none of these have tasted like any other chocolate bar that I've ever had. Like this for me has been a completely new experience.
Think of chocolate as being something that can be much more than what often gets presented. Most people think they know what chocolate is and they think of it in narrow terms. It's candy or it's dessert. But we, as I said with our flavor wheel, I mean, we can have earthy chocolate, spicy chocolate, and I mean, it goes on and on and on to the extent of people can actually taste their way through something like single origin chocolate and go, you know what, I actually really like my cacao beans to come from Madagascar. Or I really like,
But it's cool that like people are developing their tastes through stuff like this, because like you gotta, like you start from somewhere and then it's like you get that really refined sort of chocolate taste.
I mean, absolutely. I will joke with them, but I mean, I geek out about it to the extent of you just traveled, you tasted Hawaii and Peru from a seat here in Harvard Square, and you didn't need to pack a bag or go through TSA. Like, that's the easiest traveling experience you can have through chocolate. And those flavors are something that you can reflect on later and have the memory of it.
Well, you have absolutely opened my eyes today, Victoria. So thank you for coming, being a part of the show. And, you are doing a fantastic service. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I will try.
Coming up, we take a sweetened stroll through the Back Bay in search of some qualifying cocoa.
And so our adventure with Cocoa Beantown continues. We're back in Whitman right now, but we're getting ready to head back into the city. We're going to meet Victoria in the Back Bay and partake in one of the Cocoa Beantown walking tours. The weather is absolutely beautiful today, and what better way to take advantage of it than to go eat a bunch of chocolate? So we're going to follow along, see what the walking tour has in store, and hey, maybe I'm ready to become a chocolate sommelier myself. You're watching On the Road? Don't go anywhere.
Once the group came together, Victoria wasted no time getting everyone primed for the tour. Supply bags are included, as well as this chocolate coconut bar from Unreal to wet the palate.
So all of the things that they do are kind of inspired by familiar flavors like a mounds, but instead has better quality ingredients, so you don't have to feel so bad about it.
Of course, it's like a Mounds bar, but you can taste the difference in quality right away.
Not only is the chocolate better quality, but it's also fair trade certified, which we love. Engaged ethics in business in chocolate, it's so important. So chocolate you can feel good about, and you can eat more of it if you want, because it's literally got better stuff in there for you.
And after our first course, we began the tour right at Flour Bakery.
For those of you that don't know, Flour is essentially a sort of, it's almost like a local cult. Only because people who are regulars are so devoted. I get some folks that say they live or work near one, and they're visiting like 5 times a week. It's really crazy. The reason why so many people kind of become devotees of Flour is essentially that you can close your eyes, point to something on the menu, and it's going to be a good choice. So we have for you today a bite of their Cho chocolate brownie. TCHO is how you spell that. That's the name of the chocolate maker. This is an unassuming looking brownie, but I'll sink your teeth into this. I want you to tell me what that texture is like and what that chocolate flavor is like.
It goes without saying, this brownie was absolutely delicious. Nice fudgy texture, and I even got some caramel undertones. I knew that flavor wheel would come in handy. But with that, the group moves on to the next decadent destination.
For those of you that don't know, or maybe only have heard murmurings, LA Burdick is very well known in the Boston area, and actually we're up to 3 locations now. The one that you're about to check out, there's one in Harvard Square, and just this past December, they opened a 3rd location in Brookline. So you have a few opportunities in the vicinity to hit them up.
LA Burdick is one of the fancier locales on the chocolate tour, being inspired by Paris cafes and chocolatiers. For this stop, the group got to try one of their staples, the chocolate mouse.
Now, usually rodents and chocolate aren't a good mix, but it just so happens in this case they're okay. And because this is another shop that sometimes can get so crowded, I went ahead and got these ahead for you.
While the tour guests ate these and went inside to shop, I caught up with Victoria to talk more about the chocolate tour experience.
Is there a particular favorite that people have told you that they especially liked on this tour?
I get so many answers depending on what people are into. I mean, people love the brownies at Flour that we had to start off, because brownies are just so classic and memorable. No matter what their particular favorite treat is, that their favorite thing actually ends up being the shop that they didn't know about ahead of time, because there's so many things that happen, I think, in our lives. It's very human that we kind of put on blinders. We're going to the same place we get our hair cut, or the same restaurant we always meet friends, and we walk by places and don't even realize. Then you go, wow, that place has been there 13 years. How have I missed it? It's because every time we're going someplace, we're just focused on where we're going, and when we don't browse as much. So hopefully, just by, even if it's just one new shop that people go, oh, now I know I can come back here. That's really the goal, because I always tell folks, I look at life like a chocolate scavenger hunt. Feel free to adopt that mindset.
I've come to adopt the notion variety is the spice of life. It's once you stop and really look at what's around you, you might find something really, really special.
That's so true.
Is there anything that's maybe strange or like makes people think, wow, I have never seen this before?
Well, a while ago, they don't exist anymore. There used to be a candy shop on Newbury Street that, no kidding, did chocolate covered crickets. And I did have them. And honestly, I'm gonna shock you. They tasted like Nestle Crunch bars, just more protein.
Right. I mean, I guess at that point, the cricket's more of like a texture thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just crunch. That's all it is.
The tour introduces you to places and treats that you would never expect. How about a cupcake shop serving up chocolate shark attacks?
Chocolate Shark Attack cupcakes from Little Miss Cupcake. Chocolate buttercream frosting, chocolate drizzle, chocolate cake, and when you bite in the center of that chocolate cake, there's a little bit of chocolate ganache right in the center. I don't know if you could fit more chocolate into the cupcake, quite frankly. But a lot of their cupcake flavors do draw inspiration from their origins on the beachside town. What's unique about this shop is that all of the cakes, the cupcakes, the cakesicles, the cake pops, cookies, everything is made in the shop right here. A lot of what happens on Newbury Street, because we have our lovely old buildings, it's not always that you can fit in an old brownstone, a big commercial kitchen with your retail or cafe spot. So people will usually use a commercial kitchen in another neighborhood, make the stuff in the morning, bring it over in a van. But yeah, if you order a cake or a tray of cupcakes or anything you ever get here, it's always being made in the shop here.
Or maybe, to let you in on a secret, a chocolate shop hidden above an art gallery?
It's not totally completely a secret. It is actually on the door right there, Teuscher Chocolates, which is a Swiss chocolatier. And what I have for you from there is their most iconic piece, champagne truffle. You have probably heard of a champagne truffle before. You might have even had a champagne truffle before, but you haven't had it from the family that invented it. The Teuscher family of Zurich, Switzerland are in fact the originators of the champagne truffle. And like actually more stories than you might think in the chocolate world, it was a happy accident that how they got created. The elder Mr. Teuscher, who runs the company today, when he was a little rascal kid in the 1930s, got into his father's wine cellar and knocked over a bottle of Dom Perignon champagne. Now, this was during the Great Depression. Things were tight and chocolate sales were down. And so what his father decided was, let's not waste this beautiful bottle of champagne. He brought it to his chocolate shop and said, is there something we can do with this champagne and the chocolate? So what they did was infuse a little bit of cream into the center of a chocolate ganache truffle, and then the champagne truffle was born.
But for my money, the tasting at Royce Chocolates is the real coup de grace. This Japanese chocolate brand brings us back to the world of simple chocolate bars. But as we'll find, the flavors within are anything but. This fancy catering cart carries 3 unique chocolate products for us to try. At long last, the moment I've been training for.
So we've just stepped out of Royce Chocolates, and I'm really glad that we came here because I was really able to put my chocolate tasting skills to the test. The white chocolate that they offered was really unlike any white chocolate I've ever had, and that's even coming after the chocolate that I sampled with Victoria. That Hokkaido cream that goes into it really makes a difference. It almost tasted like a vanilla ice cream. It was incredibly buttery. It was just, so good. The matcha one too was actually pretty interesting to me. I'm not usually one for matcha, but something about the herbal flavor of it actually kind of mixed pretty well with the chocolate. Just goes to show when something's made right, doesn't matter how strange it is, it can be really, really good. And of course, I employed the chocolate tasting steps that Victoria taught me earlier. You give it the sniff test to prep your palate, then you just let it melt on your tongue. You don't have to chew it, and you really pick up on all those flavors and those nuances. It's really just a whole new experience trying it.
And it's an experience that makes you appreciate what you're eating that much more. If these chocolates aren't enough to make you want to explore the city, I don't know what is.
And so we've come upon the ending of yet another episode of On the Road. Before we go, Victoria, I'd like to thank you again for being a part of the show. How can people contact you if they want to know more?
The easiest thing for folks to do is go to our website, cocoabeantown.com. That's C-O-C-O-A, Beantown. We have our public tour tickets up and available, ready to purchase at any time. We have a contact form if folks want to get in touch, have inquiries about private events. We also have a box office phone line, 617-855-8567. And if you're a visual person, we're a good follow on Instagram. We post a lot of chocolate stuff all the time. So hit us up there at Cocoa Beantown.
I plan to. And thank you for tuning in today. If you have a business that you'd like to have featured on the show, you can reach out to us at info@WHCA.tv, or you can give us a call at 781-447-4175. We'd love to visit you. But until then, I'm Rob Gullickson, and we'll see you on the road.